Yes, hello to you all again out there in YouTube land, and welcome back to the latest episode of Classic Dirt Bike TV, where of course we continue to look at more of those old vintage dirt bikes from back in the day. Now, if you're a brand new subscriber to my channel, then thanks for taking the time to sign up, and I do hope you continue to enjoy future video postings with regards looking at these old classic dirt bikes here on my channel. Now, it won't be long now before we visit our annual Telford Classic Dirt Bike Show, and we will be at that show this year to cover the full 2 days of looking at those very nice machines that will be on display at the Telford International Centre. So if you can't make the show this year, then you can see some of those very nice bikes here on Classic Dirt Bike TV soon after the event. But until then, let's press on with another vintage dirt bike. Now, this particular machine that we're going to look at here used to be an Evolution bike from 1984, but it's now been converted into a Twinshock racer. So without any further delay, let's take a look at Brendan Rowatt's 1984 Twinshock Hybrid. Okay, so this next featured bike here is another hybrid machine that was originally a 1984 500 Evolution monoshock race bike, but as you can see, it's now been changed into a Twinshock motocrosser and has had a completely brand new rear end fitted onto it. Now, basically, most of the front end of this bike, including the engine and tank and engine cradle, are all still the original 84 500 Honda parts, but the rear of the bike has had a redesigned subframe with measurements and other parameters borrowed from the 1981 490 Micro Mega 2. Now, the bike belongs to Brendan Rowatt, and Brendan races this machine at various vintage and Twinshock race events all over the UK, and he's basically just taken this 84 500 Evolution bike and then converted it to use as a Twinshock race machine. But this kind of Evo to Twinshock type swap is very common in the UK nowadays, and not only have I seen it done on these CR Hondas, I've also seen other bikes like the YZ monoshock Yamahas given this very same Twinshock conversion treatment. Now, the motor in Brendan's bike is the big air-cooled CR500 Honda engine from 1984, and I'm sure that you don't need me to tell you just how powerful these CR500 power plants are, but it's probably pretty fair to say that these are real men's motocross motors, and they're certainly not for the faint-hearted who just like to have a leisurely stroll around the fields with your mates on a Sunday. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's not been any modifications done to this 500cc engine, because even in their stock trim, they'd still scare you shitless if you snapped that throttle open far too quick. And as I remember, I'm sure that these were the last of the big air-cooled CR500s, and Honda then turned to water cooling in 1985. Although, as far as I know, there was one particular modification that Brendan did make on this engine, and that was to manufacture this alloy adapter intake for the carburetor so that it would fit that custom made airbox. But you can see in this particular clip here that Honda were already making plans to use these crankcases to house the water pump when they would adopt liquid cooling the following year. Now, again, with regards this quite obscure angle for the Kickstarter, Brendan told me that he did this on purpose, as he said it gives him a much better starting position for kicking the bike when he unfolds it into its starting position. And although these monster CR500 engines did have a good reputation for producing masses of power, they did suffer from poor carburation and constant pre-detonation, or pinking as it was known back in the day, which was not unlike the old YZ490 Yamahas of their day. And in 1984 they even tried fitting air scoops to this air-cooled motor just to try and keep that engine temperature down to a decent level. And so as we move to the front end of Brendan's machine now, the front forks that are fitted to this 1984 bike are not, of course, the Honda originals, and these are a set of forks that have been taken from a YZ Yamaha. And the main reason for Brendan using these YZ forks as opposed to the stock Honda items was that he could also use the Yamaha YZ twin leading shoe front brake and hub. But for an older drum brake system, these Yamaha twin leading shoe brakes were a bit more powerful than, say, the lesser single brake configuration, and it would certainly help to slow down this very quick machine when it needed to make a turn. Now, back in 1984, the rear of this bike would of course have had a single monoshock rear suspension fitted to it, and this has now been swapped to this Twinshock arrangement, and the bike now has a nice pair of YSS piggyback units, which again are very good quality and highly tunable for rebound and damping. And of course the other plus here is that these YSS shocks can be completely dismantled for servicing, or if you want to carry out further tuning or revalving. Now naturally the original monoshock alloy swing arm had to undergo major surgery to convert it from a monoshock to a Twinshock type swing arm, and this was then just cut in half and then re-angled with this dog leg put into it, and then re-welded with a couple of shock hangers fixed onto either side, just to take these new old school type twin shocks at the rear. But it was all quite an involved process, and of course the alloy welding had to be spot on just to make sure that that swing arm was still kept strong. Now once more, a brand new airbox had to be made for the carburetor, and this was custom made in aluminium and is basically a carbon copy of the plastic part that was fitted onto the 81 490 Micro. And again, this part was very well made, and it certainly added a bit of bling to Brendan's new creation. And this again, as in the 490 Micro, would house a foam type air filter inside. Now again, most of the graphics and this personalised seat cover were all supplied by Frank Thornton at Evo Motocross Racing, and by Brendan adding his initials to the seat cover here certainly gives his new bike that unique personal touch. But once more, these are very good quality items, and I have to say they look superb on this new Twinshock race machine. And so as we move on to the business end of Brendan's bike, we have the usual Renthal race bars and an engine kill switch there on the left, and of course more quality with a decent set of grips, alloy levers and control cables. Now the motor's exhaust expansion chamber is a revamped cone type construction, which is loosely based around the race pipe that would have been fitted to this Honda back in 1984. And this alloy tailpipe at the rear is again, of course, not an original part, but it certainly looks very similar to a DEP unit from Elwell Race Pipes. Now again, Brendan did tell me that most of the Honda 500's plastics were all supplied by DC Plastics in the USA, and both the front and rear wheels are brand new gold anodized alloy replacements that have been fully rebuilt using heavy duty stainless steel spokes that have been laced onto those Yamaha YZ hubs at the front and rear. Although I have to say, overall, another very nice looking Honda 500 that's been converted from what was a single shock Evolution bike to a very usable twin shock racer. Now of course, every time that we feature one of these hybrid Evolution to twin shock projects here on CDB TV, the one single question that always seems to crop up time after time is why? Because many riders and owners of these type of Evolution bikes find it quite hard to understand why anybody could chop up a perfectly decent Evolution dirt bike to make it into an older twin shock racer. And if you're looking for an answer from me, then unfortunately I don't really have one, but then again, that's what makes us all individuals at the end of the day, and I'm sure that Brendan has his own particular reasons for building this twin shock creation. And as far as its performance goes on the racetrack, this is a very quick bike because I've witnessed it firsthand, and it can certainly fly with that big lump of a Honda motor in the chassis. Although, like it or loathe it, there's certainly no escaping the fact that this is still a cracking looking motorcycle which has been quite well put together, and having that Yamaha YZ suspension at the front and those piggyback shocks at the rear which are bolted on to that redesigned alloy swing arm, and of course not forgetting that big 500 Honda two-stroke motor, I can't actually see what's not to like on this very unique Honda hybrid racer. Well, there you have it. I do hope you enjoyed that walk around Brendan Rowatt's 1984 Honda CR500 Twinshock conversion. Quite a popular project for riders these days to take on the Evolution bikes and then convert them into air-cooled twin shock racers. But that's another tasty bike there done by Brendan Rowatt. So coming up in my next video project, we're going to go back to the Rob Hughes classic dirt bike collection, and in my next video we'll be taking a look at this very rare CCM from 1996. Now this is a C25 350 enduro bike. Now there was only about 20 of these bikes actually made in 1996, so we'll be taking a look at this very rare specimen when we return to my channel for my next video posting. But until then, of course, everybody out there, continue to be safe and well, and watch what you're doing when you're riding those old vintage dirt bikes, and we hope to see you back here again very soon when we talk about more of this vintage iron right here on your favourite Classic Dirt Bike TV channel.